Okay, we're on.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, May 20th. We're going to go into executive session, possibly last until around 6:30, then come out of the executive session. At that point, that's when I'll read the rest of the agenda. So right now, I would look for a motion to go into executive session.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Subsection A, Clauses 1 and 4, to convene an executive session to review the applications of Littleton Apothecary and Community Care Collective for a retail marijuana license and to convene an open session thereafter.
Second.
Roll call vote, Selectman Glavy.
Aye.
Selectman Napoli.
Aye.
Selectman Knox, aye. Thank you, and we'll be back around 7 o'clock.
I don't know if I can control myself. You'd rather me say it right to you, right?
Yep. Yeah, I guess instead of the viewing audience, that's fine.
It's cold in here.
Do I let people in, or?
Yeah, well,
I think Anthony's over there, right?
Here comes George. George is back.
It's freezing in here.
It is actually.
It was warm. It was good.
Hey, Chris. What'd you do? Oh, he misbehaved. He misbehaved.
I saw him last week, he was fine.
You had to have seen him before Wednesday, then.
What did you do to him?
All right, we'll set.
Also, Brent, you guys don't speak.
Good evening, welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for Monday, May 20th. We just exited executive session. What's on the agenda for today? At 6:30, organization of Pledge of Allegiance, and read mail, 6:35, department updates of Park Recreation, the Girl Scouts having to do with Fay Park Gazebo, seasonal dock permits, Littleton Harbor Master. 6:50 be public input and members' input. 6:55, talking about the Cooper Farmhouse from Field Development. 7:15, a joint meeting with a marijuana licensing working group to review proposals, one being Littleton Apothecary, two being Community Care Collective. 8:30, interim town administrator topics, finance director update, and space needs discussion. Around 8:30, we have minutes, and then we go into executive session again. So, Madam Vice Chair, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anthony, any mail to read?
Yes. First thing is we got an invitation, the board got an invitation to the Neshoba Valley Technical High School's graduation on June 1st at 10 a.m. That was forwarded to each of you. The second thing that I want to bring up is Tim Mikowski let me know that the first third Thursday will be this Thursday. The weather didn't cooperate with us last week, but looks good for this week. So that'll be the first of three. Four?
Four.
We doing four?
May, June, July, August.
That's right. And today starts Public Works Week. So this is just a little shout out to our Highway Department, Littleton Water, Littleton Light, for the great work they do all year long. So May 19th to May 25th is Public Works Week. Thanks your local public work employee when you see them. And the last thing, I just wanted to thank the board. This is my last meeting as your sitting interim town administrator. So thank you for trusting me to hold the ship down for the last 7 months and really guiding a great team of department heads and fine citizens. So next meeting, I'll be sitting in the second seat over there, but we'll be getting Nina up to par with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
It wasn't an easy task to take over, and thanks for filling out those 7 months. That was greatly needed. Going right in the Park and Rec, do you want to lead into the Girl Scout gazebo, or is that separate, is that part of your
So, I'll come up.
Sure.
Back in the fall, we had looked at some things that we wanted to update up in the spring, the gazebo being one of them. And in our kind of fall and spring cleaning, we came across a booklet that was a Girl Scout Silver Award that was the original gazebo project. Through conversations with the Girl Scouts, the Silver Awards are in perpetuity. I got with the Girl Scout Troop 69088 and troop leader Katrina Hagberg, excuse me, and I'll turn it over to the girls now to let you see the project that they did. They did an absolutely outstanding job. Ladies?
Welcome.
So you guys just gotta tell me when to flip the slide, okay?
Look at her.
All right.
Choreographed.
Thank you for inviting us here tonight. We are Junior Girl Scout Troop 69088. I'm Julia. I'm Eve.
I'm Maddie. I'm Ashi.
I'm Lily.
I'm Nina. My name's Lauren.
And I'm Emily. For our Take Action project, we painted the gazebo in Fay Park. Our Take Action project is a service learning project that makes the world a better place. Park and Rec brought this project to our attention. The gazebo was last painted in 2013, but it was time to do it again. The paint was peeling and there were bird droppings everywhere. Here are some pictures of what the gazebo looked like before we started.
We had two.
It's okay. One back.
Come on.
Sorry, quick finger.
No merit badge for you.
That's it.
We made a budget and listed all the tools and supplies we needed. Some of the supplies we needed were paintbrushes, stickers, and rollers. We also wrote letters to local hardware stores to ask for donations.
We have worked 4 work days at the gazebo so far this spring. First, we power washed the gazebo and raked the trash out of the bushes. Next, we scraped all the peeling paint.
Our dads helped us replace part of the ramp and the stair treads. We primed the bare wood and painted the railings and the ceiling white. We also sanded and stained the 2 benches.
Here's a picture of what the gazebo looks like now. The only thing we have left to do is paint the floor, but our last couple of work days have been rained out. We plan to finish this project before June's 3rd Thursday.
We want to say a big thank you to our generous donors. Littleton Lumber donated 4 gallons of paint and gave us the employee discount on the rest. McKay Ace Hardware donated stain for the benches, paintbrushes, and a drop cloth. Aubuchon Hardware gave us paintbrushes, painter's tape, and roller covers. We could not have done this project without these donations.
We also want to thank Tim from Park and Rec for all his support and help coordinating, and to Girl Scout Troop 61150 for their help with spray paint. We also owe a big thank you to our families because without their help we could not have been able to complete this project. Finally, thank you for the board for having us here tonight.
I'll let the whole board speak, but it just, as chairman, I just want to say how happy and proud I am of the work that you did there. I was there last spring for Thursday, and we all know what it looked like and what it looks like now. I want to thank you. Board members?
Yeah, it's terrific. I mean, there's a lot of great things in town that require citizens to take a role in keeping them looking nice and presentable for everybody to use. And you set such a great example that hopefully other folks will recognize as well, that it's everybody's job to step up, and you guys recognize that early, and that's terrific.
You guys do know that the gazebo has an annex at 609 Newtown Road that needs to be. You guys did a great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I drove by there just a few days ago, and it popped. I mean, you could tell. It was bright, clean, white. You did a spectacular job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. You guys are awesome.
Good job.
Just awesome.
Thank the other troop, too.
We will, thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
all, parents.
Do we want to get a picture of that?
You got a picture? I got one, yeah.
You want me to ask you anything?
That's
Cute.
You want to do it?
Yeah,
Late now.
they really did a great job.
Ask her. Do you want to get a picture with all of us?
Do you guys want to get a picture with the Board of Selectmen? I know half of them are out the door.
A lot of people usually pay for this.
They're like, really?
We can just stand back.
Yeah, we'll stand back here and have the girls just stand in here.
Ladies, if you want to just stand inside the U,
Right up in
and
here.
they're going to stand right behind you.
Have all the important people in front.
That's right.
Just back right up against the table.
Yeah,
All of it.
There you go. Perfect.
that'll work.
We're jumping in.
Okay, we're gonna jump behind them.
Okay. I'll have
Come on back, yeah.
to go in the tall people section.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's okay. Get out of the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great,
ladies.
thanks.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks again.
Okay, Tim, your time's used up.
That's all right.
Good use of time, though.
What's that?
It was a good use of time.
Thank you.
Seasonal dock permits? Is that-
Seasonal dock permits. So in working with the beach and kind of reviewing everything that we're supposed to kind of put in place every year, conversations that I've had with Amy in conservation, one of the things that has kind of fallen by the wayside is the seasonal dock permits. So in Littleton, we have 5 great ponds, 2 of which we share, one with Westford and one with Acton. The other 3 are located solely inside the confines of Littleton, Long Lake being one of them. Great Pond is defined as a pond that's over 10 acres. With that, we, under the state law, under Massachusetts Chapter 91, are supposed to have a harbor master. In 1982, that was deemed under the Board of Selectmen. As such, under Chapter 91, one of the requirements that you'll find in your packet, I don't know if you guys had a chance to kind of look over it, is the seasonal docks and waterways. So in working with the harbor master over in Groton, I kind of bent I bent his ear and just kind of asked him kind of how things go, and he had showed me this application that he uses, which I kind of tweaked for the town of Littleton. So what I have before you is the applications for the docks that we do put in every single year, which starting this year, try to have them back on file since we haven't had anything on file in recent memory. So the first application for a temporary dock, float, or mooring raft is for the sailing dock, which is directly adjacent to the boat ramp, which is under the control of the town of Littleton, as well as Park and Recreation. So that would be the first one that I would ask to have approved, if there are any questions. What's that? The second one is for the actual beach. So this would be for the swimming raft, as well as the dock that runs down the middle of the beach that the kids play on. We do swim lessons off of, and it's used for various others. The last docks, I'm actually presenting these on behalf of the Conservation Commission. We're not sure if we're actually going to go forward and put these in, but these were the docks that were put in by Clean Lakes and Conservation in the same project that had been done with the Frog Pond. There used to be 3 existing docks on Lakeshore Drive that were used for fishing, various other things that over time had gotten heaved by the ice. There's actually one that's still partially submerged over there, but they just kind of were abandoned and not taken care of. So while we're here, I was going to put those applications before you as well. Amy and her team and us are working together to see what we can do as far as restoring them, because we do get a lot of comments about the kids needing a place to fish that's not in the swim zone, that's not on the sailing dock, and various things. So I'm going to turn these over to Amy, and when they get to that point of the conversation in conservation, they'll have these on file if we choose to move forward with that. There's a resident who does want to fund the reconstruction of these.
So facing the water, the ones you talk about that would be for fishing, they'd be to the right.
Yeah, so if you're standing on the beach and then you walk that pathway out to Lakeshore Drive,
Yep.
they would be on that grassy knoll where the benches are.
I remember those.
Yep.
I do
Yeah.
too.
So they just got heaved by the ice, and one is completely submerged. It's the closest one to the beach. It's still there. And then since then, people have just kind of thrown pallets in there every summer to kind of recreate what was there. Okay.
So just, any of those, even the ones that are, haven't been there in a while, they're all going to locations where at least once upon a time there had been. There's nothing really new here, per se.
Correct. There's nothing new being proposed. When we do look at the new dock specifically that's going into the sailing area,
Yep.
it's going to be the same, very much the same configuration, depending on, we might add a T to it, just some area to be able to moor the boats up a little better rather than have them
the
anchored in the water.
location's the same,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
that, none of that's going to change.
So do you need a motion for this?
Yeah, there's one up there. There's also one.
And just to reiterate, Tim had mentioned that there is a resident that is willing to fund the repair or reconstruction of the fishing docks.
Of the Lakeshore Drive ones, yeah, and that resident's been in contact with Amy. I have not personally spoken to them myself.
Financial impact.
One more.
No, good.
I was gonna say, ordinarily, if we were adopting any of these things, if it implied anything new of an impact, I would suggest that we have a process that the proposal is published first and give people a chance at a hearing, but I'm guessing that there's nothing here terribly controversial, so I'm happy to move it as is, and we'll find out otherwise later, I guess. Hopefully not, right? Motion?
Certainly. Move that the Board of Selectmen, acting as the town's harbor master per town code, Chapter 23, Section 23-1, approve the application for 1, floating dock system for beach raft docks, 2, fixed dock system for fishing out, and 3, floating dock system for sailing.
Motion's been made by Selectman Cindy, seconded by
Selectman Paul.
Selectman Paul.
Selectman Chuck just out of his hands.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I can just give you those to get signed. I can get them back whenever.
Tim, thank you for the diligence in going through all this.
No problem. I'll just very quickly go through this. As we stated, the Board of Selectmen is kind of overseeing the harbor master position and has since, the early 80s. With that, there was a 200-day kind of grace period when that was taken over, that someone was supposed to go through the training that's located here in the packet as per Article 91 and the Massachusetts General Law. So like I said, I've reached out to various harbor masters to try to figure out, exactly what we're supposed to do under Chapter 91 and how this is kind of supposed to go, what we're supposed to have, and there are bits and pieces that can be manipulated based on, what the needs are for the town. So with that, I'd be happy to definitely turn this over to you guys and all the information I have if one of you, wants to go through that training so we can, start to work this process. And also, if somebody would be interested, I would be more than happy to undergo this training as the aquatic supervisor at Long Lake Beach to go through this and be named the harbor master, or you can deem somebody, anyone, whether it's a seasonal position or it's something that is just put out there in an appointment for a certain number of years. So I just wanted to give you guys all that information so that we can, start taking the steps in becoming compliant once again.
So we're not looking for a motion for anything per se. This was just tonight.
Just
Tim wanted to
information.
present it to the board. If the board so chooses to designate him or somebody else, then that's something we can discuss at a later time.
Because I remember the harbor master coming up.
More
a
Matawanaki
long
than
time
Long
ago.
Lake.
Yeah.
And we actually had appointed individuals there. Bill Lyons was for a number of years. Remember Billy Lyons?
We're talking about back in the 80s. or
Yeah,
late
oh
80s.
yeah,
You get like a special hat?
yeah. Commodore's hat, yes.
Governors, yeah.
Little rowboat too.
But, yeah, it's good to put it back on our plate here. You're probably gonna have to remind us again to revisit that, but I think that's, on its face, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah, so one of the things that kind of brought this to fruition was, and Amy has all the information, there is a resident who is located on Long Lake who had a dock that was damaged by the ice and is looking to figure out who she's supposed to go to. So you may be seeing some more people kind of filtering through to get some of this permitting done.
Okay.
So you're willing to be the lucky soul that goes through some training, becomes the harbor master for the town. How long is that training good for? Is it a certification process? Is it something you have to get continuing education? Typically, we don't get anything from the state. We have to continue to keep up our license and give them a fee. Do you know what that involves?
Right, so I haven't done that much of a deep dive. The initial training is actually in your packet. So that is kind of the referendum. It's the Harbor Master Training Council. They do meet once a year. Outside of the initial training, I do not know
Okay.
what the requirements are for year to year.
Like, if we were willing to, if Tim's willing to do it, and we were willing to allow him to do it, I mean, obviously, the town would pay for the training, the town would pay for whatever certification or, continuing education, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I'd propose that if Tim's looking to take this on, I anticipate it's gonna be a whole lot of work for him. I'd propose that we do some sort of a stipend.
The other thing, I have no opposition to that, but my memory's coming back to me when we had the harbor master before, that the position administratively was under, since it does enforcement, it was under the police department. And, we have to kind of think in those terms.
Maybe
That
do a little
doesn't
research.
preclude you, but,
Yep,
Perhaps we do a little more research and just reach out to
Yeah.
the chief and find out.
yep.
That's how I would propose we proceed, if in fact all that gets fleshed out. that Tim's willing to do it, appreciate you bringing this forward to us as well.
But go ahead.
No, yeah, I just say that's how I'd want to see it proceed.
Would that mean on any waterway, say Fort Pond, someone had a dock there and they wanted, would that be?
specific to the.
It's just the Great Ponds in Littleton. That's all. So Littleton specifically, so I have them right here.
So Fort Pond is just a really, really good pond,
Yeah.
it's not a great pond.
A lot of them. So in Littleton, it would be Fort Pond, Long Pond, Lake Minnewanaki, Forge Pond, Nagon Pond, and Spectacle Pond.
They're just like wardens of some sort, aren't they?
Fishing, not for most of them,
They don't.
yeah.
Maybe the question?
Yeah, no, so we'll just look into it and follow up with
Yeah,
Tim.
appreciate bringing it up.
All right, guys, thank you for your time.
Can we take off third Thursday, Fay Park, or?
So I'm working with Highway. If it is not still underwater, it will be a Fay Park. Otherwise, if it still is underwater, we will have a location.
So
That'll
just
go out in the email.
Wait to hear from you.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
Did you get my email?
I did get your email. So I
So
will.
third
email-
Thursday will be on the fourth Thursday unless it's on the first Thursday?
So if we don't make the fourth Thursday, I'll see you at third Thursday in June. Because we got Memorial Day rolling up real quick. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time. Have a great day.
Okay, number 4. Public input, does anyone have anything they want to bring up right now? If so, just identify your name and where you live. Anyone with anything? Members input?
In the interest of time, I don't have anything.
No, I didn't make it home to get my notes, so in the interest of time, I'm gonna pass as well.
Wow.
Just going to remind people about the Memorial Day Parade
Right.
on Monday. If you're a veteran or an active duty service member and you'd like to walk or ride in the parade, you can be at the Donlands parking lot at 8:30, 9 o'clock. Parade, we kick off at 9:30. So hope a lot of residents come out and support our veterans. It's always a great event. I hope the weather cooperates. I think it's rained the past 2 years somewhat, so. And then there's a community barbecue following the parade at the VFW on Taylor Street, so everyone's welcome. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
No, we're on time. If I could. Mr. Field, you also like to come up and? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Platt, here on behalf of M&M Realty Trust.
Matthew Field.
Cooper Development. And we were in front of this board. We worked with the board in 2016 to achieve a host community agreement to dealing with the development of the Cooper Farm on Great Road. We spent many meetings with you over a better part of a year, coming up with an agreement on the development, and as part of that development, we agreed to gift over 22 acres of open space to the town, which was done back in 2018 after we had closed on the acquisition and gotten our permits for the property. Also, as part of that host community agreement, we agreed to give the existing house at 180 Great Road as, for affordable housing purposes. And through the discussions with the planning board, they had consented to us keeping that house for a period of time during the construction phase, both because it was not in a condition that the town wanted to accept at that point. There was a holdover tenant, there was graffiti on the building, it was filled with trash. We undertook to clean up the property, clean up the outside, and with our discussions with the planning board, they agreed that we could use it for, they said, a 2-year period during construction for site, to have someone on site and for marketing, and then if we needed more after the end of 2 years to come back and ask for an extension. That would be somewhere around September of this year. We're willing to deed the property over now and are prepared to do that. We'd actually offered to do that around October of 2018 as well, as long as we could have some sort of construction easement as we had had with the other open space. That being said, one of the important things for us as part of this development is that whether the town chooses to use it for affordable housing, which is our preference, that had always been our intent, is that this would be for affordable housing, preferably with a local preference, so we could have someone in town get the benefit of being in that house. Whether or not the town chooses to go down that road or not, it's important that it counts towards our affordable count for the development. So I wanted to raise that issue. That's something we had raised with town council a year plus ago, and I just wanted to make sure that was on the radar. One of the reasons we're here in front of you is we have had a lot of inquiries from residents at the development wanting to know what the town's plan is, what their timing is. So wanted to have a conversation with you, first to let you know we have a deed here, we're ready to hand it over, but would like to be able to go back to our residents and say, this is the master plan, if there's a plan.
Well, thank you for coming, and I think we've all probably driven through, Matt, I think you did a fine job with the development. And,
Thank you.
overall, I think, and I don't want to speak for the whole board, I'll speak for myself, and I'll let them chime in. But it's attractive, you've done a fine job, and I think all we're looking for is a date when this will be turned over. The only thing I want to caution about is that one of the statements that was made about the house itself has said to be used for exactly for what you said, or any use that the town deemed necessary. And I was one of the ones that put that in on purpose at when we first did it, thinking at that point that we might want to use it for town space. Now, office space. I think would never be used, but I just want to make sure that we do have that option if we wanted to go that direction. And I don't think we are, but it was put there in case we wanted to do something.
And absolutely, that language is in the deed. It has, so you do have the flexibility. If you decide that affordable housing isn't the best use for that space, you can do whatever you'd like. We just want to make sure that since it was intended, at least on the developer side, to be used for affordable housing, if the town chooses to go another direction, we still get the benefit of it counting as affordable housing.
Okay, I'm turning to the board members.
So I'm on the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board, and we actually have had a couple of discussions about the farmhouse, and we'd like to talk to the Board of Selectmen about certainly utilizing it for affordable housing, which is, our main mission and objective, so, yeah. And that's just coming from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board. We haven't had that discussion with the Board of Selectmen, but it's certainly on our radar for those purposes.
I wasn't on the board that negotiated this. I believe Chuck and Joe, you guys both were, but I appreciate how complicated it was. I do remember thinking at the time, too, that this, if it's done right, will probably be the future. If we're going to be in a position to protect what is currently now a lot of active farmland down that stretch. I mean, some we hope will go on as farms in perpetuity, but that won't happen with all of them. And, you know, places where you have a smart, forward-thinking mutual agreement on divvying up a property where you protect the frontage, as we've done in this case, with some land for, that'll be ultimately purposed as playing fields, and then other land that's protected for agricultural purposes, and then beautiful homes that you built in the back. I think it's a great success. So I hope we can just get the house issue behind us. I hope that Cindy and her trust group are successful in getting it repurposed. Personally, I hope that we get it repurposed as housing, but in any event, I hope that doesn't become an issue for you with the planning board. I want to be this clear here that we're not here to be a board of appeals on discussions you have with the planning board, but for what it's worth, we've already taken delivery on the other 2 parcels of property. If we get the house coming, and you guys have indicated you're willing to sign off on that. Okay, yeah, well, that's terrific. Then I think, we should recognize that for all the work that went in, whatever it was, 4 years ago, it's a pretty good place to end up.
It is.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
Paul, you're correct. Paul, Joe and I were part of the negotiations with Michael, Matthew, and Eminem. And, I think we all want this to come to some sort of a close. Appreciate you bringing the deed. Hopefully we can execute it. I don't recall, I think we had mentioned that some of the possible uses that we wanted, and that's why the language that is in the deed is in there. I don't ever recall us stating that that parcel will be counted toward any affordable count.
That's incorrect.
For the development. Well, this is my recollection, Matt, so.
That's okay. So with Paul Avella doing, I'm sorry?
I wasn't done, but go ahead.
Oh, no, please, go ahead.
Finish.
Nope.
So it wasn't my recollection that we were gonna have that, that was never gonna be part of it. Part of the count was the potential of Goldsmith, and we had talked about that as potentially being part of the count. Or there was some trade-off there, but that has since changed because of an option that you exercised, which you were fully within your right of doing. But this particular parcel, this home, is a home that was being deeded to the town. And what the town did with it from that point forward had nothing to do with the intent of the developer as part of the count. The count came from, my understanding, from going through the negotiations, the count came from the 55-plus component that was being.
And one thing I just want to point out, and I think Cindy may have know about this as well, but the affordable housing that we're doing over in the 55 and over, and there's one being built as we speak, that unfortunately does not count towards the town's affordable housing inventory because it's deed restricted to age. And the state has made a determination that if you have an age restriction, which we're required to under the bylaws and under our development documents for that parcel, we can't count it. The town doesn't get the benefit of counting that towards its inventory, whereas the house up front, since it's not age restricted, can be counted. And I understand we did explicitly include language to give the town flexibility if they wanted to do something else, but it was very much part of our overall development plan and of the gifts that were being given to the town as part of this development was this house, the hope and the intent was that it would be for affordable housing. As you said, the town wanted some flexibility, which we agreed to, but if the town is choosing to go another direction, we don't want the sort of development as a whole to to take the brunt of that and not have the count there.
I don't see the town, I don't see the developer taking the brunt of anything because it was never included as a member of the board that negotiated that at that point in time, Matthew, I don't ever recall that being part of the count. That's,
We're gonna differ in
okay.
opinions.
If
And that's fine,
that's
and
where we,
that's
if
fine.
that's
and
where
that's
we end
fine.
up and we decide as a board that, okay, let's just do this and let you count it, that's fine. I can accept that and I'll
Yep.
vote in favor. That's the pleasure of the board, then I'll be right there with them. But that's not my recollection. That's not what I recall.
Without weighing in on who's right on that recollection, I know this much, the HCA does not speak to it.
Right.
And so, and the other, and I made this point earlier, as much as I would have no problem advocating for you being treated fairly on the housing count with the planning board, it's not our job, council, and I made this point earlier, to be a board of appeals for planning board work, and that sounds like what's being pushed here right now, and I wish we would just, I think it's very.
We don't wanna hit the hot buttons.
Yeah, and it's not our role. There are planning
enough.
board members that, probably wouldn't appreciate us hearing, a recitation of their business, just as we wouldn't appreciate those folks
Take
weighing in
action.
on us. So I think, there's a lot of positives here to focus on, and the transfer of this building could bring to fruition one aspect of it, that's the town's agreement with the Fields. And you guys have, you stuck your necks out financially and all the rest of it to make this thing work, and, I appreciate that. And I hope that the remaining piece of the puzzle, what it sounds like, is the count on affordable housing could be done fairly for you. And I don't mind, saying that. If the numbers have changed because the numbers of your overall development have, that probably ought to be addressed. But that's me speaking personally, not as a board member.
Can I say one thing? I'm sorry. So part of the reason that we wanted the farmhouse to be affordable housing was because of our original agreement with the Coopers, with the Cooper family. That was actually part of their wishes. So if you look at our purchase and sales with them, that was the agreement. Our agreement was we were buying the property and we were gonna have the farmhouse be gifted as affordable housing, or not even actually gifted to the town. We were going to have the house be used as affordable housing. So that was that was the whole origin of affordable housing around the house. So we were just trying to honor our agreement, and that's where it came into the whole HCA. So we threw it in as part of that because we're trying to honor our agreement with the Cooper family. So just to give you a little bit of background there. That being said, one of the things that we've talked about is, so there's these tracts of land surrounding the house, and then there's the house that is, although it's been cleaned up, in less than ideal shape. I don't know, what the town's appetite is for, coming in and cleaning it up and getting a family in there and managing the property and that kind of thing. So this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about was, so what potentially are your future plans for it? Would you consider selling the house? Would it be better for the town to have cash to do something else with? What
That's what I wanted to talk to Joe. Joe and Chuck were in the house and they saw the condition of it.
What's the end game? That's what I kept, what would be better for the town? What would be better for the town of Littleton? Do you want to operate affordable housing, hold it in houses, single family houses like that? Or would it be better? I don't know.
And,
See,
Mr. Chairman,
We've been talking between ourselves, and Joe, you're in real estate. You know the condition of the home. You know the value of that house. It needs a septic system. It needs repairs. It needs a lot of work done to make it habitable, really habitable. So we would be willing, and I came with a deed to give it to you, so either way, I don't care. If the town, in lieu of it, we would make a cash donation to the housing of, say, $150,000, and we keep the house.
Or some amount. I don't know exactly.
Or you can take the house. I don't care.
But what ideally, I think, would be to get somebody in that house that maybe would have a little bit of stewardship over that land, potentially, that, I don't know, that could take care of it, and, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead. No, if you have the thought, go ahead.
I don't know if it would be so much a rental. I don't, you know what I mean? If the town operates it and rents it,
Once
is that
again,
the ideal situation?
when,
No.
When I first made that statement early on, those are thoughts from 2 or 3, 4 years ago, what it might be used for. I don't think that's the case anymore. You can probably speak more to the affordable part.
Right.
I think this board overall would like to see it be used as an affordable housing, and
I have no problem with that,
Right.
but wouldn't it be better suited to take the money and use it to maybe buy down another unit, or? I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do.
If I may, Mr. Chairman. So our intention, we negotiated in good faith the host community agreement. I think for us to change gears now isn't what we had basically
That's
told
okay.
told the
I'm
residents
here
we were
with,
going
I'm
to
here
do.
with the
We
deed.
told the residents, we executed the host community agreement, this is what we were, this is what we negotiated.
That's fine.
And so I am of the opinion that we are owed the house, and we should accept the deed, and the use, Jenny, you're right on point. These are all things that we brought up when we were talking about the use of the house, was, Habitats for Humanity. I think, Ed, you had suggested something to do with, maybe some sort of veterans housing. That there was stewardship for the farmable land. So all these things were things we discussed, but we hadn't made any clear and fine decisions to determine what that use was going to be. So
Yeah, I have concerns just because of the anxiety coming from all the people who have bought those homes, who unfortunately are now gonna be calling you guys instead of me, so the anxiety will go off of me and onto you when you guys have the deed, which is, for better or worse, but they're unhappy about the state of the house as it is right now. They're breathing down my neck, like, when are you gonna clean it up? When's it gonna, they're worried about it, which I don't blame them. They have this house that doesn't necessarily look great. They wanna know when it's gonna be,
But you're in real estate,
yeah.
Joe's in real estate, I've done real estate, and when they purchased that property, they were able to do all the diligence and find out what the history.
Well,
of
they've
that
all been
property
told,
was.
and they've all looked at the host community agreement, and they've all looked at,
So they are taking in good faith that the town or whoever owns that home is going to do right by them.
Right.
So, and yeah, if Anthony ends up getting phone calls,
good luck,
we
Anthony.
have to, that's how we have to act on it.
Right. We have options with the Affordable Housing Trust, but we need to get in there and look at the house and assess it and gauge our options. Personally, being a property owner and renting the house is not one of the options, but certainly we could sell it and we could put a deed restriction on it, and it would count towards our housing stock. So there's a lot of things that we can do with it, honestly, Janet and Matt, so. But to echo what Chuck said, we had a plan. I think we should stay the course and then go with that.
And
fine-
that's
we're fine
fine.
with
We
it.
were just
Yeah,
throwing out some options just for your.
hold on.
If I may, Mr. Chair, so I want to speak on behalf of myself as Vice Chair of the Planning Board. First, I want to compliment the Fields on a great project. I think it's a super job over there.
Thank you.
I'm also very excited you guys showed up with the deed tonight. I'm excited about that. And we have spoken about what type of affordable units it could be, whether it's veteran housing, municipal housing, teachers, whatever.
Preferential.
But whatever preferential treatment, but the great part is that there's no age restriction on this one.
Correct.
So it would count to our affordable component, so I'm excited, I'm glad it's here. I hope you guys move to accept the deed tonight.
This is
Don't do it
a,
anymore, or they're just gonna accept it, would that be in the form?
And if they want to.
I'm just gonna say, speak to this, is the whole idea of selling it back or not accepting it, taking cash. I'm not even sure what our legal obligation would be. We might have to, Anthony might even have to go out through Chapter 30 and bid the whole thing, right? And we can't really determine a sales price without.
Why, we still own it.
Gift in lieu.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have to on 30B, but we definitely would want to consult with counsel.
Legal
on-
counsel. I
on
mean,
even the
we're
deed and
under
everything.
tighter restrictions than you folks
You have to
are
amend
in
the
terms
HCA.
of that, right? At a minimum. But I think it's probably cleanest to accept the property. I think it is.
So do we
We're game if you're game.
want to make a motion in that respect?
I'm curious whether you got the deed with you tonight. You're looking for us to move in tomorrow morning, or would you?
What we'd ask for is 30 days just to vacate it and
well,
get it
without
empty
a-
for you, but if
Is
that
that
works.
enough, or?
Yeah, that's plenty. I'm tired of it. I'm done.
I mean, you want to just use June 1st? No, not June 1st. July 1st?
July 1st?
July 1st.
Yeah, sure.
Fine.
Just a clean date. You know, it's
Do you want to
start
accept,
fresh.
do you want to get the copy of the deed, run it by council, and then at the June 10th meeting, take your formal vote? After council has an
Probably should have
opportunity to
council
that.
review it. We can vote contingent on council's approval.
Right.
That's fine.
Clear.
That's,
I haven't done a site work since
Well, we're out there a
You-
year and a half ago.
year and a half.
No, you were out there in the fall.
Was it the fall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You and Joe went through in the fall. Yeah, we worked hard to get them
But
to
it-
clean up.
I mean, it looks the same.
So just, I mean, in the same condition that
Yeah.
Joe and I saw it in.
Plywood floors.
How about the things out back? Is this things that have to be taken care of? Is
the
it
construction
trash?
trailer's gone.
Construction trailer, we have a deck there that we gotta remove.
If you, any more equipment on?
Nope,
I don't
my
think
truck
there's-
We had the
on the
trailer
site.
we had the construction trailer, the job site trailer removed. But yeah, I mean.
We'll have all the personal belongings that are there gone.
I think, along with the vote here, Mr. Chair, about a month ago when we voted to send a letter to the planning board, we indicated this was an outstanding issue. I think to close the loop on that, we ought to subsequently follow up, just, and send a letter to the planning board
Notify the
saying,
planning board.
we're all, what?
Just notify
Yeah, that
the
we're all set, we're, accepted the property and that the terms of the HCA have all been satisfied, so there's no lingering issue as far as that goes.
None that I know of.
Hopefully that'll help resolve
It'll
any.
ease some pain.
What's that?
It'll ease some pain.
Well, yeah, hopefully, yeah.
There's, and as far as diligence, I mean, is there anything, Matt mentioned the septic, is it something we want to have?
Probably ought to ask council again there what we ought to, I don't know what the,
I say we accept it, and have it deeded,
Yeah, when
just
we-
subject to.
Except,
Contingent upon.
council's review of the
yeah.
deed and whatever, the offer.
Work?
All right, no benefit of a,
He said he's been scribbling.
oh, you've been scribbling? All right.
I don't know, I'm trying
Do
to
we,
come up with something.
And this, just so for background, this is the form of deed with the comments we had sent to town council, and we'll share this with you over a year ago. It does have the language in here that says, it's a gift for affordable housing or such other uses as the town may choose, but it does count towards the affordable housing count in the development. Just want to
Council may
So-
strike that part of it out of there. I don't know, they might consider it not germane to our agreement.
But I think would have to be a decision made or agreed to by you as opposed to by council.
Well, I have no problem with that at all, but I still want to run it by council, make sure that,
Oh, of course, they should, I wouldn't let him do it that way without having this council
None
look at
of
it
us
either
have
ways.
read the document you've got in front of you.
Absolutely. So, no, I think
we're
that's
agreeing to accept the deed,
Okay.
but the deed still needs to be read.
Unless
You're agreeing to accept that it's part of our affordability. That's what we're here asking the board to do.
Again, that's outside of our authority.
Then we're all done.
No, no, I don't think it is outside your authority, because this is the deed that town council is going to bless, and it will be included in this deed. So I didn't want it to go by without explicitly raising this with you, so you are aware of that.
But to Mr. Glavey's point, that's not,
Is that
we're stepping
conflicting
on
with
some other town
planning
boards.
board?
I would rather advocate for you with the planning board than take the authority of the planning board to determine what is and isn't affordable housing. That's not our job.
I guess I'm not quite seeing it that way, because I think it needs to be in this document to be,
if we're going to go, I have no problem saying, asking council, this board is in favor of having it count toward their, and just make sure it's okay with him. That's what I'm,
and I'm happy to work with council on that, as we always do.
Council's reading of it's one thing, our relationship with the planning board and whether they perceive that we're
Yeah, 'cause
overstepping their
accepting the
authority.
deed
I'm
is-
counting it for the affordable. That's always been the case.
So I
That's what we-
would have to review our agreement that we made on April 6th of 2017 with them. on whether that was part of our approval. If it is, then I would say as a planning board and vice chair that I would encourage my board to accept the deed as written. If that's not part of what our agreement was, then.
Again, that's, goes back to the main issue, which is the
So
planning
if you
board's
guys
call
wanna-
on that part.
If I may make an offer, if you guys want to accept the deed contingent on planning board reviewing their special permit approval for affordable open space, you want to do that, or you can send it to us?
I'm, at this point, I'm not, I mean, you've stated, then we're done here. I think that, Jen, let me finish. I think that my recollection is this was never part of the affordable. If it is a determination and we come to the conclusion that we will grant this as an affordable unit towards your count, then so be it, but I'm not comfortable accepting it right now.
And if we're in front of the wrong
You wouldn't have that
board,
conversation.
I mean, if you think, I thought this was your purview, and if we're asking the wrong people, then that's my mistake, and if we should be in front of the planning board for them to bless it, but the deed runs to the select board, which is why.
It does, but I don't ever recall that statement, and being one of the
Fair
two
enough.
members, sitting members of the Board of Selectmen at the time it was negotiated.
Understood.
I mean, there's only,
No, understood.
two of us that can speak to this right now.
But, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm saying at this point, as far as I'm concerned, I have no problem having a count to it. Then if it goes through the legality through our town council and then.
And if the planning board's
and the
okay
planning
with
board.
that part of it, that's,
That's fine.
I think that's a reason, if I may, yeah.
I mean.
Would you agree with that?
Sure, but again, I think we want to hear them speak on that issue. And as far as the other piece goes, that's just legality as far as having council review the document. Happy, I mean, I hope
Fair enough.
that's a resolution I'm happy with, but I want to make it clear that we're not telling the planning board what to do. They're in
Well, I
fact going to
understand
tell
that,
us.
and I agree with that. How do you feel, Cindy?
Yeah.
One chairman at a
Scribbling
time,
away,
yeah.
yeah.
Mr. Sanders, please.
Mr. Chairman, on the host agreement, who made the host agreement? And where does this house come into play that the town is going to receive and how they're going to receive it? That should be known before you go accepting a deed, that you don't know if that's in there from what they're presenting. Now, I went to a lot of meetings there. I believe the authority line on that was at the planning board as to what was being conveyed and what the town was going to accept on that.
Well, I would disagree. I think well, I don't want to, I want to go back and find out what's proper with the planning board, but I thought it was this board that,
The house is clearly in the HCA, I just read it recently.
We made the deal with the selectmen.
Right.
Okay, then you should have it then.
I have no problem voting to accept the deed tonight, contingent upon approval of the language by the planning board and a review and approval of the language by town council. It's before us, I think. We should just
Put it to rest.
put it to rest,
Great.
yeah. I mean,
That's the pleasure of the board. I said it before, that if that's the pleasure of the board, then that's what I'll,
I think there's too many vague recollections right now, and until we get with the planning board and kind of backstep, not to question your recollection, Chuck.
I don't
but-
take it that way at all.
Yeah,
If
so
we
I
make a
just-
Closure on this.
Yeah,
and
I
it
think we
costs us
just,
an affordable.
and I appreciate you coming tonight with the deed. I think we just need to,
that doesn't cost us an affordable.
It doesn't, I mean, it doesn't cost, it just, it's not something that we negotiated. It's just,
I-
so there's an affordable unit that's not gonna be counted if we don't do it
Right.
towards the count for this development. So
This will be the only
essentially,
affordable
we're the
unit
ones
that gets to be
giving out.
counted in the
Right.
development.
right. Right.
You want,
But it's a benefit to us because it counts as for our affordable
Right.
stock, so.
I've watched the meetings and it was discussed twice where we
Okay.
said, but that's going to count as, I mean, is it in writing anywhere? No, shame on us. 'Cause
Right.
It's not, but
Yeah, I
it
just
was
feel like.
definitely verbally
Is
discussed,
it
I
in there?
promise you.
So any of the conversations we had when we negotiated the HCA were not televised. So-
No, they couldn't be.
Right, so just.
But we have them,
why don't we just make a motion and have it move on and
Right,
That's fine.
all right. Ready?
Sure.
I'm just winging this. Move to accept the deed from Field Development Corp., or is it worded differently in there?
From M&M Realty
M&M
Trust.
Realty.
M&M Realty Trust to the town of Littleton, contingent upon approval of the language by the planning board and review of the language and approval by town council with respect to the land and the dwelling located at property known as 180 Great Road, Littleton, Mass.
Motion was made by Selectman Napoli and seconded by Selectman Glavy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very
Thank
much. We
you.
appreciate it.
You have to get those.
You gonna give me a copy?
Last minute switcheroo, huh? Was it the last minute switcheroo? I still want him to get him out the fucking door. Well, whatever.
Michael wasn't here this evening. Janet's gonna run and get his signature and bring it back, and that way you have it done. I'll be back in. Okay.
Hello, Mr. Johnson. Hi, thank you very much for your help today. My name's Ryan.
Oh, hi, Brian. You can have a seat. You're not up first.
Okay, moving on to the next topic, it has to do with marijuana working group and the review proposals that are set forth. One thing I want to point out is that different members of this board have had comments made to them that, how did this get thrown on us all at once? Why it's brand new? Why it wasn't brought up before? And to be quite honest, our interim town administrator spent a lot of time today giving me a timeline that actually explains when we first started talking about marijuana in general, dating back to 2009, when we first started talking about the medicine part of it, and just in 2017, actually having a moratorium with the planning board so we could further review it. So it's been made public for all this time, and I just wanted to make sure people know that. And it was decided later on that we would have this workforce put together so we could review these applications when they might come in. So there has been a lot of thought, a lot of effort, a lot of time that has gone into this to make sure it'll work right for the town. It's what happens tonight, we'll have presentations for 2 of the 3 applicants that have put in for the recreational marijuana license or permit, as it may be, and we'll let them make their presentations. This board will ask questions, and we'll then move on from there. We might vote tonight to grant, we might not vote today to grant, we might grant 1, we might not grant any, or we might grant 2, we don't know right now, and we'll see as it goes on. So, the working group, you were into this a lot more deeply than what Paul and I were in.
So Cindy and I represented the Board of Selectmen on the working group, along with Ed Mullen and Anna Houston from the Planning Board. And everything Joe just said is exactly the case. This has been something that has been very public. In November of 2016, the whole state took a statewide, there was a ballot question, and Littleton passed with a strong majority to legalize adult use marijuana retail establishments in the state. And as a result of that, certain timelines kicked off, and we've met or had cannabis on our agenda, I would say, at least once a month for the past year and a half. There's been something on the agenda discussing whether it be zoning. We've had a number of articles at town meeting that have been voted on. So boil that all down to where we are today. The voice of the voters has told us that we want to have retail establishments in Littleton. The Cannabis Control Commission, the state, has said that we have to allow 20% of our off-premise liquor licenses. We have 7 of those, so 20% would be 1.4 establishments. The state doesn't round down, they have new math, they round up, so 1.4 equals 2. So hence, we're here with the potential to grant 2 licenses or enter into negotiations with 0, 1, or 2 applicants to allow them to negotiate with the board for a host community agreement. We're just referencing a host community agreement with the previous folks. But there would be certain things put in place, and we would be governed by the CCC as to what we can negotiate with the successful applicant. And we're going to do our best to put our best foot forward and get as much as we can for the town as far as education, protection, safety, security, traffic. We're gonna make sure that we are doing our diligence to have the operators be as successful as they can be and have it have the highest and best impact on the community. I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, just that as part of the working group, we did closely follow the guidance for municipalities put together by the CCC. We spent a lot of time reading and researching those guidelines. We crafted the request for proposals and spent a lot of time with that language. The two applicants that came before us this evening, we initially reviewed their applications. We did have some follow-up requests for information that we sent out to them, and they were both very good about getting those responses right back to us. But just to echo what Selectman DeCoste just said, this is a pretty strict, regimented process. It's very regulated, and there's phases that we'll go through at the municipal end, but then the ultimate decision will be any applicant needs to apply to the state, to the CCC, and they will have the final say about whether or not a license is issued. So this is a multi-phase process, and this is just the beginning phase right now with the two applicants that are here before us.
Okay, with that being said, Littleton Apothecary. Good evening.
Good evening. I tried this afternoon.
I just want to say, that's some reading for, I thank you for all the work you put in, but that's
It's a lot of pages.
a whole week in there.
Well, it rained, so maybe that's okay. Good evening. I'm Jenna Brownson, and this is my partner, Christine Nordhaus. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present our vision to you tonight. Christine and I are the sole owners of a proposed adult-use retail cannabis shop named Littleton Apothecary. It will be located at 160 Air Road. Our mission statement: Littleton Apothecary will be a place of compassion and education for the sale of high-quality cannabis to the curious, the experienced, and the skeptical, with a dedication to philanthropic giving to the community of Littleton. Littleton Apothecary will provide locally sourced premium cannabis products to adults 21 and older in a thoughtfully curated boutique retail setting. Pictured here are cannabis and retail shops that we love. Upscale, but not fussy, Littleton Apothecary will be a shop for grown-ups, a local shop staffed by local people, a place where we ourselves would like to shop. Fantastic customer service is our priority. Our customers can expect warm, friendly interactions with knowledgeable, professionally trained staff.
Several years ago in Seattle, I visited my first cannabis shop. I was intimidated and overwhelmed by all of the different products, like most people, many people. My experience with cannabis was at college parties. I didn't know the difference between indica and sativa, or what a terpene profile was, or that such things even existed. But different strains of cannabis have different effects. We'll classify, organize, and explain these effects to our customers. Our product classification system will help people find what they're looking for and understand what to expect from their purchase. Whether a customer wants to elevate their mood, spark creativity, seek a remedy, calm down, or soothe any number of aches and pains, they can visit our website, in-store menu kiosks, or consult with our staff in a comfortable, judgment-free setting. So that's the shop. Let's get down to business. The questions we're most often asked in one way or another is about security. What are your plans? Are you familiar with the Massachusetts security requirements for cannabis establishments? Because we are. These are the requirements for security for any type of cannabis business, labs, growers, all of us. Here are the additional requirements for retail shops. To meet the state requirements, every inch of our shop interior must be visible by camera. We know of an establishment who failed an inspection because there was a 2-foot square area not visible by their camera system. Our security system will be active 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The system will be monitored on-site in our security office and off-site by 2 independent security services. Every door into the shop, as well as every interior door, will be access controlled. We can control who is allowed to access any area of the shop and which are off limits. I'll find it. I know where I am somewhere. So, we jokingly say that we know every kid in Littleton. So if your kid shows up in a fake mustache, we might have your cell phone number. The reality is that no one gets past our security without a valid government-issued ID proving they're of legal age. If our security team can't verify your age, you won't come into the shop. Every customer, every time, even if Joe Knox comes to our shop, he doesn't get in without showing a government-issued form of identification.
Kind of an age crack.
No exceptions ever. If you're brazen enough to push past our security personnel, which you won't be, you won't get through the 2 access-controlled doors to the shop interior. My kids will not be allowed in this shop, and if my husband wants to bring me a sandwich, that's great, but he can't come in without showing his ID. Our security consultant firm has firsthand experience in Massachusetts cannabis retail. Together with our consultant, we have developed security procedures and systems that go beyond the state requirements. The Selectmen Working Group and Littleton Police Department have those procedures in hand, but for everyone else, it's confidential. So, why us? What makes 2 middle-aged Littleton ladies qualified to operate a shop like this? We actually share an extraordinary combination of skills. An attorney and an operational powerhouse with the unlikely combination of banking, startup, and nonprofit leadership. Our mastery in navigating the mountains, and you have seen the mountains, of regulatory requirements of the state and the town of Littleton, coupled with a particularly specialized command of logistical management, make us uniquely qualified to create and smoothly operate an establishment any town would feel secure hosting. And there's something else that makes us more qualified than most.
When cannabis comes to Littleton, it should be managed under the watchful eyes of 2 Littleton mothers, women dedicated to the peace and safety of the town in which we chose long ago to raise our children. We have long track records of service to Littleton, and we have proven throughout this process our willingness to work cooperatively and collaboratively with the Littleton Police Department and town administration. Now, let's get to the good part. In addition to the state-required responsible vendor training, Littleton Apothecary's staff will be trained in all things cannabis. We'll develop monthly themes that will focus on specific cannabis topics. February might be PTSD month. March, talking to your kids about drugs. We'll provide our staff research-based curricula designed to educate them to speak to these monthly topics with Littleton Apothecary's customers. In conjunction with our monthly themes, we'll offer free community ed programs and seminars. We'll bring in experts and professionals to speak to these topics and to answer questions. At all times, Littleton Apothecary will keep education materials related to responsible consumption prominently displayed in the store. Our website will feature information about spotting substance abuse, links to local care providers, and crisis hotlines. Now let's talk about the real reason Christine and I got into this. Littleton Apothecary's mission is to commit its profits to a separate, nonprofit organization called the Littleton Project. Our intended contribution structure is as follows. After expenses, 5% of our annual profits under $500,000 will be committed to the Littleton Project. So if we make $500,000, $25,000 will be committed to the project. Over $500,000, all of our annual profits will go to the Littleton Project. If we have $500,012 in profits, $25,012 will go to the Littleton Project. If we have $1 million in profits, $525,000 will go to the Littleton Project. Based on widely accepted projections for the size of the Massachusetts cannabis market, we hope to fully endow the Littleton Project with $3 million in just a few years. Governed by a board of directors comprised of Littleton residents, a $3 million endowment will allow the Littleton Project to grant $125,000 a year, forever. There will be one litmus test for whether a grant is awarded. What will the applicant's project do to positively impact the people of Littleton? In simpler terms, how will the grant from the Littleton Project pay it forward to the residents of our town?
We firmly believe that the financial opportunity that cannabis presents should serve all of the people of Littleton. Through job creation and excise taxes, our community will be served. The Littleton Project, however, takes this idea far beyond economic development to a place of dreams. The late Senator Paul Wellstone said, "We all do better when we all do better." It's a concept that implies that a community can work together to enrich and improve each other's lives. To us, this is a beautiful concept, and it is the heart and soul and guiding principle of Littleton Apothecary and the Littleton Project. Thanks.
Thank you. One thing I want to point out to everyone is that the booklet that you put together, the amount of time that was spent and the organization that you put into it is greatly appreciated. I mean, and I don't want to speak for the people who are on the work committee, but I understand that whenever they had a question, you get right back to them also. So the public can know, could you give the location where you would be operating?
Yes, so it would be located at 160 Air Road, which is on the way to Air, by way of the title. If you can picture, as you come around the bend, there is a cluster of condominiums, I guess you would call them. Cherrystone Furniture inhabits one of those, and Touchmark Promotions inhabits another, and there are spaces available where we would hope to site the store.
One other question before I turn it over. What would be your hours of operation, and why did you choose those hours?
So we basically looked at liquor sales because it's pretty much uncharted. I mean, well, it is uncharted in Littleton. We don't have any cannabis shops. And we looked at the average operating hours, Monday through Saturday for liquor stores, and they're open 8 AM to 10 PM. And that's, we looked at Littleton Liquors, One Stop Liquors, the Little Peach, Common Convenience, and Donnellan's. And so the average of those is 8 to 10, Monday through Saturday, and then 10 AM to 8:45 PM on Sunday. We would like to be open 5 to 7 days per week, but we know we're not going to be open 7 days a week because we have families and we can't do it. So we would like to be open from 10 in the morning till 8 PM at night. Or less. Or less. But, we wouldn't want to go beyond that in either direction.
Board members? Cindy, you want?
I don't have anything right now. I'll defer to other board members.
Actually, for a couple of reasons. One, because your proposal was so thorough, and two, because our working group, Chuck, Cindy, and the two planning board members, Ed Mullen and Anna Houston, did such a good job of vetting out questions that weren't immediately apparent from the proposals. Most of my questions have been answered, but I suppose for the, just for the, I guess for the public as much as anything, I'll try to direct a couple of questions your way that might be of interest to the general public and actually address some of the questions raised earlier based on your initial presentation. For instance, on security, without getting into any of the confidential aspects of it, could you speak to that a little bit more? I know, for instance, that Christine, you're designated as the security officer for the team, and
Yeah.
And do you find that, you think that will be sufficient, or have you given more thought to having somebody with more of a public safety background?
And we absolutely look to hire a head security person. For now, the outfitting of the shop and all of that is going to fall to me. I have experience in the consumer retail banking industry, and it's fascinating to me. First of all, banks are not quite as secure, not nearly as secure as a retail cannabis shop is. But my experience and training with cash handling, the operating with the security system, controlling the security system, understanding how it works, and knowing exactly how to train our staff. I think that will really help us to identify the right security professional to hire. And because this process is so lengthy, and because this is a mom and mom thing, we have met with the consultant that we will hire to install the security, but when we get closer to having a license in hand, when we get a provisional license from the state, we'll be able to start building out the shop, and that's when we'll start staffing.
Okay. The site that you mentioned where you're hoping to locate, and this is probably true of a lot of locations, just invites questions as to what you've given in terms of thought to both ingress, egress, traffic considerations there. It's something, long before you decided to do something, that spot begs for some help anyway. And then interior to the site, parking. Have you worked all that out with the landlord?
Our landlord has, the town doesn't have any specific requirements for number of spaces relative to cannabis that would differ from, so there are the zoning guidelines for retail shops, but not cannabis retail shops. The guidelines for retail shops are, it's one space per 150 square feet of leasable space. So that means our shop would need 22 and a half spaces. Our landlord has guaranteed us 40. And then there are an additional 20 on site. So 40 will be ours. And then 20 will be open or not, when people come in.
Beyond that, I guess I don't have too many more questions immediately. Maybe they'll come up
and
later.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, the 40 thing, the fire code is, we're not allowed to have more than 49 people in our shop.
Right.
At any time, so, including shop staff, so it's not 49 new. So we think that we have a pretty good,
And traffic pattern is something if you get to that stage, you'd have to address with the planning board in any way
Absolutely.
for site.
and it was a big deal to us, traffic. And my kid, both of our kids, drive that road to school every day. So we looked at the traffic studies done and the volume on that road very seriously, very, very carefully. We expect we'd add maybe 30 cars an hour. We wouldn't be open during the heaviest traffic time, which is in the morning. So that makes me happy. When schools and everybody's going to work, we're not going to be open. We're not going to be open until 10.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any other questions at this point. I will say, though, that I think that your presentation and your application show the thoroughness you've given to getting yourselves educated into the industry and putting forward a very substantial proposal. And the community benefit is unique. I've heard feedback from folks in other parts of the state that have noted that you're the first out of the box with that business model. And as another plus, you're legitimately local, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do see that there's some other folks that want to ask some questions, but I'm just going to follow up on a couple of the questions that Mr. Glavy brought forward. So relative to security, I think you've addressed some of the personnel issues, and you've certainly answered to those, as well as, talking about the cameras covering every square inch. And I like the redundancy in having two independent safety contractors, security contractors, monitoring those as well as
So do
the
we.
internal.
Yeah.
Right. My question about security is relative to the building itself, the structure itself. It wasn't built for this type of, you can talk about banks, being very secure or not as secure as this. For entry, it sounds like it's been addressed, but as far as the facility itself, it's built out as office condos or retail condos, so typically they're sheetrock walls, metal studs. Not looking to know exactly what your business plan is relative to the build-out, but is some of that going to be addressed? Because as a resident with kids.
Yeah.
And as
It's
the
actually-
governing body over the town, I think that is a concern for many. I've heard it. And on your
for
behalf, as business owners, I would hope that it was fortified.
Well, actually, the connecting walls between the units are concrete. So there's.
They go all the way to the roof.
All the way to the roof.
So there's firewalls, essentially.
Yeah. And, the front and back, the front is concrete. the
Blocks,
back,
yeah, and the back
uh,
is as well.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
it's concrete in the back. I didn't know about the back, but that doesn't mean.
Okay, so each unit is
Self-contained.
100% self-contained, firewalls all the way to the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorta.
I think that's the way it was built, yeah.
Yeah.
The other question was, in fact, relative to the parking. The facility has 7 office condos?
6.
6? Okay. So 6 office condos. Is each one of those deeded separately with a certain number of parking spaces, or?
They are, 10 per.
Okay.
But our landlord has spoken to the other, and worked with the other tenants, and guaranteed us 40.
Okay. What is the total number of spaces on the site?
There's 50 in the front and 20 in the back,
Yeah, yeah.
but we'll have to look at the plan. Yeah, I think it's 50 and 20.
Thank you. I think, as mentioned a few times, as we've been going through this process, a lot of the questions that what have been asked, we've asked. And they've been included in the presentation and in your submission. I appreciate that. Although I may come back with you with some other questions, I think there are some folks that want to ask some questions as well. And of course, Mr. Chairman, you get an opportunity to speak.
No, I just want to open the floor to the two members from the planning board if they have any questions that they want to
Anna is here.
put forth at this point. Anna just came back and had a nice trip, I understand, so.
Nice road trip. At this point, no questions from me, Mr. Chair. I think they've done an excellent presentation as well as a very thoughtful application. When we did, as a working group, create the questions, they were on the ball and answering them, and then the few questions that we had after executive session today.
Anna, anything?
No questions at this time. Thank you, ladies. I'm sorry I missed it.
It's been recorded.
Do we open it to the floor on something like this?
You can, sure.
Any questions from the floor? Just identify yourself and where you live.
Sure, my name is Danica Johnston. I live on Goldsmith Street. Or I did live on Goldsmith Street, now I live on Goldsmith Street. So my question is sort of in regards to the traffic that's gonna come off of 495.
Right.
So I feel like either way, a car comes off exit 30 or 31, they're gonna pass through a school zone, or at least 2 school zones.
Yeah.
Which is concerning. I'm in education, and I think that like a student was hit on Russell Street this past year during rush hour, and I understand they're not going to be open in the morning, but that's still concerning to me with the flow of traffic either through residential areas or that area.
Do you want me to answer this one?
I certainly respect that concern. We have
Jenna,
seen.
through the chair.
Oh, sorry. Forgot about that. Through the chair and to you. I do respect the concerns about traffic. When Cultivate in Leicester and Netta in Northampton opened in November, they were the first 2 retail cannabis locations on the entire eastern seaboard. People drove from New Jersey to buy cannabis in Massachusetts, and those communities, I think particularly Leicester, were really shocked with the number of people who were flocking to say that they bought legal cannabis.
Should I show the presentation?
We have a little supplemental traffic presentation. If you, it's just a couple of slides long if you're interested.
Let me show you this, because I think it's important.
Just for the record, those folks that flocked here to get cannabis legally.
Yes.
And went over state lines and made it illegal.
And we, yeah, they did. I mean,
Unless they enjoyed it in Massachusetts.
there's no denying that. Another thing is we will make sure that folks know if they make a purchase at our store, that they need to put it in a locked glove compartment, or they need to put it in the trunk.
And that's not our rule.
That is state law, and they run the risk if it's sitting on their, on their front seat and they're pulled over, then they can, the police could certainly have concerns about it being within sort of reachable space. We don't want anyone to be using cannabis in their cars. We want them to go home and enjoy it if that's where they choose to use it. But it's important to us that people understand what the rules are, because this is all very uncharted territory for many people who might choose to come to the shop.
So if you look, this is from the Boston Globe in November. This was Leicester. The neighbors complained of traffic jams for weeks after. It was horrible. So this was one that opened in Lowell in March on Industrial Avenue. They were expecting huge crowds from New Hampshire because they were really close to New Hampshire. And traffic had returned to normal 3 hours after they opened. This one made me chuckle because this is from Brookline. This was the first Boston area shop. So there are a lot of students down there. It says, at one point early Saturday, Brookline police traffic detail officers outnumbered the people in line. And then from May in Worcester, this one references Cultivate. And this was an appointment-only shop. so when Cultivate and Leicester opened, more than 1,000 people lined up to make purchases. As of the day of opening, Good Chemistry had not fully booked their appointments for the day. So it's a different world as more shops open, and they really are opening around the state. It's not, people aren't going to come to Littleton from New Jersey. But through the chair, with regard to the 495 specifically, that question, we looked at the location of other shops and the routes of travel that our customers would likely be coming from, and for our market research purposes, we looked at the towns surrounding Littleton that have bans in place, and that's Westford, Concord, West Concord, Boxborough, Groton, Acton. So we did the whole Google Maps thing, if we were coming from South Acton or from wherever in Acton. All of those Google Maps had everybody get off the Taylor Street exit of Route 2. And 495 had exit 30, exit 30, that's my exit, exit 30, which would go by the high school.
Taylor Street might too.
Well, Taylor Street would come out on King Street, like by that little gas station Dunks there, so it would skip the high school. And any directions that we put on our website, if people are going to look at those instead of Google Maps, would have them coming on that exit, because, yeah, the high school. We suspect that our heaviest traffic would be during rush hour at night, 5, 6 o'clock, and so I think that just makes sense. So we would hope that schools would be done by then. I don't see, you think about the school travel times, and when the kids are getting out of school in Littleton, a lot of regular people aren't really going to be out shopping as much as they might be like on the way home from work. But time will tell, and certainly this is a guess on our part and a hope.
You're required to have a community
Outreach meeting.
and
Right.
During that time, people can be able to ask more questions.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
And that's coming up?
That's
You've
going
already
to be,
scheduled it?
yep, on Wednesday, the 29th, at 7 o'clock at the middle school.
Any other questions before we move on?
I don't know if this is a question or more of a statement, but.
Identify yourself and.
Diana Andrea, Stone Spring Lane. So I'm curious, Colorado's about 5 years into this, and there are a bunch of studies that show a rise in property crime, a rise in violent crime, a rise in suspensions at school, a rise in more drug overdose and 911 calls from the area. That's increased. Emergency room visits have increased. These are huge factors that our town needs to consider before this kind of a product comes in. We're already taxed with our police and our fire and our emergency. Has anyone from the board thought of any of those things or read any of those studies on the internet? Or?
I think we all have, and we've gone through the whole process.
Probably one of the board members is better able to identify that, but you did have someone from Colorado in the working group.
Yeah, so Anna Houston from Planning Board was on the working group that we had, and the Houstons moved here from Colorado, and so they had some level of expertise and personal knowledge. Chase Gerbig, Gerbig, who's on the Board of Selectmen, he's not able to make it tonight because of a work commitment, but he also has he's shared some information with us. Each of us individually has done a lot of research, Diana, and frankly, we can have our own opinions, but we serve at the pleasure of the residents and the voters, and the voters have spoken and said that we want 2 retail establishments in Littleton. So we have to find the best way to facilitate this and try to manage it within our authority, because the state has most of the authority relative to security, and these guys could probably educate you as well, and some other folks. we've done a deep dive. We have educated ourselves, but we have to try to mitigate any problems, traffic, security, try to make it the best situation possible for our town. So,
It's just that maybe being, having read up on all of the impacts of, some of the impacts perceived from both sides in Colorado, other places, I think we've tried to apply those lessons in the guidelines we put forward for awarding the 2 licenses that Littleton has available to us in terms of scope, location, requirements for local, or preference for local management and participation, some of the security and public engagement features. So hopefully, some of the things that may not have been handled as well elsewhere are being done better here. And I don't know that Littleton's unique that way. I think what we're finding with the sites across Massachusetts is they're, as was just mentioned a moment ago, they seem to be so far blending into their communities without major incident. To a certain extent, we won't know for a few years, though, too.
Right. Mr. Chair, if I may, so I think this process is, as you laid out at the beginning of the meeting, it's been ongoing for quite some time, and I think that gave us as a board time to see what went wrong in other communities, and it gave the CCC time to kind of tweak and revise their rules and regulations. So kind of holding back, stepping back and observing for a while, I think really benefited us, because through the RFP process and working with the working group, we really, I believe, came up with a pretty stringent, specific process.
You did great.
And with, and again, relying on the CCC guidelines, so.
Mr. Sanders?
You can get her, she had her hand up first.
I called on you, Mr. Sanders.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, George Sanders, 672 Great Road. I'll just try and give a lady respect there, Chairman. One of the things that I have concern with is that are you planning on having a police officer there for the enter and exit of this location?
Go ahead, through the chair. No. We'll have security personnel, but the police work for the town of Littleton. We've met with Chief Bernard 4 times now. He was the very first person that we spoke to about this. When we decided to look into getting serious, we sat down with Chief Bernard. We will work and have worked cooperatively with the Littleton Police Department and follow his suggestions every single time. We'll do whatever he recommends.
Well, secondly, I would say that as far as Littleton go, I think that we have 2 responsible individuals here. They're local, and I think that's a plus for Littleton in terms of that. And I think they are aware of the community and how this community react in terms of protection from children. So I really don't see a problem with these 2 individuals, because they're in this town and they live in this town and they have a care for this town. So I think I went online and I read the report that was in the package here for the Selectmen here, and I thought it was well done in terms of the information that was submitted. And I would say that the location is in one of the target areas that the town has selected that would be. And I think as far as traffic go, and as far as crime, overdose, and so forth, I think, we just got to get used to that. That's all across America. It's not just here. That we have to look at and say that that's going to happen here. It's going to be more here than anywhere else. I just think we'd have to take a look and see attitude here and wish them the best.
I just had a question about approvals process, and that Delisa is the landlord, correct? Delisa Laterzo?
Yes, she is.
So she will recuse herself from any sort of review process for these two applicants, correct?
When it comes time for the planning board.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that would be her responsibility to do it, but
Right.
yes.
Thank you.
Want to comment on that?
Mr. Nolan?
If I may, so Mr. Chair, we would anticipate that one of our newer members of the board would recuse herself when this is before us.
All right.
Go ahead, just, Chief walking in just reminded me that, to reference Mr. Sanders' comments as to whether or not there would be a police detail on the premises, the state allows us, and we voted in, a 3% sales tax on sales. So the town will get that, there's no strings attached to that. We get 3% of anything that any operator generates in sales. The state will also allow us to receive from an operator an additional up to 3% to help us to mitigate any traffic concerns. So if we got to a point, I'll give you for instance, where Cabela's is located down in exit 26, Route 62 in Berlin, there's an operator right there, kind of just below BJ's where the new development went up on the hill, where Lowe's and all that kind of stuff is. They often have a police detail out there. That would be something, if we had to do something like that and change traffic patterns, put up orange cones, put a detail out there, we would be able to charge that back to the operator. That the state allows us to do that. But we have to do an accounting of that and prove that it's not just, we want to get another 3% out of them. We have to say, this is what we're incurring, you're responsible for it, up to 3%. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so psyched that all worked.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'm going to recuse myself from the next presentation.
Sure.
My mother has a business located at the proposed location for this establishment, so I'm going to recuse myself and leave the room.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Community Care Collective.
I'm gonna check that.
Turn it down.
Is anybody else freezing?
Want me to-
You were the spotlight.
Is it extra hot on purpose over there?
David, you'll appreciate this being in real estate. I have all your supplemental things. Look, I have development plans from, somehow get stuck on the.
Is that feeling fresh?
Who?
Can you pick that power clip towards him?
Oh, jeez. In the horn, something.
What kind of presentation is this?
Can you reach it yet?
We have the volume patched in. So with HDMI, it'll come out the TVs. Volume for the TVs. It does have some music playing on the videos.
I think you may have to pass on the music. I don't know how the volume works.
Yeah, it'll come through the HDMI. Do you have the remote for it? No. For the volume.
We've never had this request before.
Can you have it come on here?
Oh,
Can it?
font's too small.
It kind of defaults with
Sure.
the
It's okay, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got the volume there. Will that?
You want to test it just so we don't?
Should come through yet.
Want to test it just so we don't?
Sure.
Don't please.
Sure. Thank you. Awesome.
Is that loud enough?
Thanks, Joe. Maybe a little less. That's good.
IT specialist. Yeah.
little extra next week's check.
With double my pay?
With Anthony
2 times 0.
Do we need Anthony here?
Do you need Anthony here?
No.
Okay.
David, the floor is yours. Once again, your presentation and the work that you sent to us is very extensive. I thank you for it. The board thanks you for it, plus the supplemental information. That's what all this was for. And that's how my stuff gets stuck in your stuff. I don't know.
Thank you.
Welcome to Community Care Collective, where our customers will receive an educational retail cannabis experience. My name is David Giannetta, for those who don't know me, and I'm the CEO. I live right here in Littleton, and I'm a husband, father of 3, all enrolled in the Littleton school system. Started out at Bentley College and graduated in 2002 with a bachelor's degree in business management. I went on to own and operate a few business ventures in both real estate sales and development. Some of the folks in this room may have seen Meadowbrook Realty Group of Keller Williams. That would be us. The big why. Why am I here after a career in real estate? I'd be foolish to say that this would not be a business opportunity. It is. However, when I heard that Littleton was going to have retail sales of cannabis coming to the town, I grew a little concerned. As you can see, I have a family and want to make sure that I could have some involvement in that process. So that's why I'm here. The town of Littleton has used the phrase, "We're not the Walmart of cannabis," and that's not who I am. Small business owner, family man, looking to work with the town of Littleton. We have a number of underfunded organizations within our town that I would like to contribute to, one of which is an annual salary for a student resource officer, an SRO. I know that there's a need for a youth recreational center, Veterans Affairs, the library, and Council on Aging, amongst others. Our mission: we will provide finest grade cannabis to our customers. Our cannabis is produced locally and laboratory tested for safety right here in Littleton. We will employ an equal opportunity staff from folks right here in Littleton, and these folks will educate consumers on safe cannabis consumption and will provide educational literature focused on health benefits and relaxation. Our goal is to provide high-quality cannabis products accurately tested and labeled cannabis for adult use at an affordable price. We will also develop a strong community partnership to enhance underfunded organizations in Littleton, as well as donating 100+ community outreach hours and youth educational programs. What are the key components to a successful licensed marijuana retail establishment. You have to have wholesale supply. If you don't have wholesale supply, you can't operate. So what we have done is we've established a strategic alliance with Sanctuary Medicinals of Littleton, whereby Sanctuary has agreed to a priority supply agreement to supply products for retail sales. Sanctuary, some of you have been through their facility. It's a state-of-the-art cultivation and processing facility, and it provides the highest of quality products in the industry. Also, as part of our supply agreement, our employees and myself will have the opportunity to participate in Sanctuary's incubator program, which will provide comprehensive training in dispensary operations. Our location and parking capacity is very important. Our location consists of up to 82 parking spaces. Will allow for the capacity of customers to meet our proposal of sales that we have made to the town of Littleton, which I will talk about in a further slide. Experience in managing a business, it's very important that you have operated a business of your own prior to entering into this venture, which I have for over 20 years. And security. Per discussions with Chief Pinard, we are working with Littleton Police Department to offer them direct access to our video monitoring system and security system so that they can have eyes on our location at any given time when needed. Our executive management team, we have the best of the best, okay? Right here, Chief of Security, Michael Allen, former retired chief of Rochester, New Hampshire. We also have Jason Sidman. He is the CEO of Sanctuary Medicinals, and he can talk more about supply. Not here this evening, Joe Giannino. He's our public relations, and he'll streamline all communication with the town of Littleton. Our location is at 531 King Street in Littleton. The town of Littleton, they, as we know, set a bylaw and an overlay for an adult use district, and we are actually the first parcel in that district, coming from Westford and heading toward the Common. So on the left-hand side, as you approach the Common, we are the very first. As you could see from the fly-through video in the beginning, we have a very long driveway that leads to our location. We have an executed lease agreement with the owner. It is in the business district. We have part of our floor plan, a 752 square foot expanded secure vestibule inside. So there will be no line queuing, which is very important. There's other locations, other retail locations in the area that if you drive by them, they tend to have people waiting outside. We will not have that. We're a standalone building, and we'll have a high level of security. We're positioned away from any school zones. We have 4,150 square feet of a single level, so we don't share with any other units. And as I mentioned before, up to 82 parking spaces. We'll have minimal traffic impact, easy and quick highway access. This is our site plan. As you can see highlighted in gray, those are our existing parking spaces. The town of Littleton has a requirement, 1 space per 150 square feet of leasing area. We well exceed what is needed. What is needed is 28 parking spaces. We have 47 existing. We have an opportunity to expand our land banked 35 spaces, reaching a total of 82 parking spaces. As I mentioned before, we're in the business district, and we're the first property in Littleton's adult use overlay district. Some of our traffic mitigation points, as I've mentioned multiple times, we have up to 82 parking spaces. We are approximately 426 feet from King Street. We have an opportunity, and we are open to a phase-in type of by appointment only process. Traffic officer between hours of 4 to 6 p.m. rush hour. We are open to that. Our employees, we have located an off-site facility for our employees to park. So what that means is all 82 parking spaces will be dedicated to our customers. And we'll also inform our customers of the Littleton Westford commuter rail shuttle, which actually has a direct shuttle, 10-minute ride to the commuter rail. So this will help mitigate traffic. People do not necessarily have to drive to our location. Our projected growth plan, we based this information on a 12-minute radius search around our location at 531 King. And what we did is we then reduced that population down to folks that are 21 years of age to 80. And then what we arrive at that serviceable market of 167,000, which ultimately at the bottom line is to the town over $1 million in our first year. We feel very confident in these projections based on our wholesale agreement with Sanctuary. It is in line. So when we state the amount of product we will purchase, we intend on selling all of it based on our serviceable market, and we have the ability to do so because of our agreement with Sanctuary. So by year 5, we're projecting anywhere from 1.3 to 1.4 million to the town. In addition to the $1 million in our first year, per year, we're proposing an annual salary for a student resource officer, an SRO. Being somebody with children in town, I've spoken to a number of parents who have a concern of this. We also offering 100-plus community outreach hours and youth educational programs, as well as creating equal opportunity employment for local Littleton residents and vendors. We're going to look to work with local vendors when fitting out our space. What sets us apart? So we're going to take our obligation to educate its consumers and community at large very seriously. We're dedicated to providing a robust array of educational opportunities to qualified customers as well as the general public. We have rock-solid financials with no debt or outside investors as provided to the town. We have an established banking relationship with Gardner Federal Credit Union, who will handle all of our deposits securely. We have the guaranteed supply from Sanctuary. Charitable donations to specific programs in the community as determined in consultation with the town. So I'm very open to speaking with the town about what the town wants, what the town needs. Very amenable to that as it's going to affect us personally. And voluntary community service hours by all community care collective employees, as well as education in the schools. Security. We will work closely, as we have, with Littleton Police Department to ensure the development of a comprehensive security plan. We'll have a minimum of 1 on-site security officer present for the hours of operation. Folks must provide positive identification through our ID verification scanners. We'll have a secure transportation and delivery process, alarm systems, video surveillance, electronic access control, and safe and secure on-site product storage. Anti-diversion measures. So we will be very aware and will observe through our employees who will be trained to be ready for this. In the event that we notice a customer is currently under the influence or underage, we will be very aware and trained to the highest level of the state guidelines. And now that we have learned about Community Care Collective, I want to take you back through our location, our site, so you can experience what our customers will.
Thanks, David. One quick question I have. You would mention that you might start off doing it by appointment. Or, if you do set hours, what hours would you be open?
We would be open from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., Monday through Friday, and then till 11 on the weekends, if allowed by the town. But definitely open to working with the town in that regard.
I know if you were to get the permit through us, it has to go to the planning board, and they can talk about parking, but one of my concerns is the traffic that's in that area, having an office there for so long, and the problems I had getting out sometimes, so. But that's a planning board issue that you guys can certainly take care of. I'll pass it on to you guys and then come back to me.
It's certainly good to see another local in the mix, and especially one with a track record as a successful business person in the area, so I count those as pluses, and as the chairman mentioned, a thorough packet, too. A lot of our questions have been either addressed by you folks in your presentation or through the work of our working group and doing some follow-up with you. Specifically, the question of security, you seem to address that, at least to the level that you will anticipate staffing an unarmed security person at all hours. It's open. As far as the traffic goes, I know you'd indicated a willingness to have a police officer, at certain times? How have you?
Yeah, that was in response to some follow-up questions, and I understand the concern. Rush hour traffic, being a resident, I get it. So 4 to 6 p.m., if there's any additional provisions we can offer. I also feel that we're very early right now. Our proposal is to reach market Q1, likely late Q1 of 2020. By that point, there are going to be additional stores that are out in the state of Massachusetts, thus relieving a lot of that pressure, coming to, say, our location. Obviously, the town of Littleton also is going to be offering another license to another location, so we're sharing that traffic, if you will. But yes, we would be open to working with the Littleton Police Department, also coming up with other solutions to help mitigate that.
Okay. I think actually you'd probably run into a more detailed discussion of that topic with the planning board.
Correct.
When we get to a discussion of site plan, et cetera. In your proposal, it's not clear to me whether or not, is your intention to be the on-site manager whenever the facility's open?
So when I provided the response this past week, that question came up, and I quickly realized that was a misunderstanding. I'm a business owner. I will be on-site. However, I won't be the day-to-day manager, 7 days a week. I intend on hiring a store manager, also an operations manager. I provided a chart of really the breakdown of our organization, but I definitely intend on leveraging that, and hiring them.
Have any of the operational folks that'll be in the store during operating hours been identified yet?
No, and that's because of the time that this process is going to take. But through Sanctuary's incubator program, we're going to train our operational managers as well as our staff at the lowest level, myself included. I'm going to receive additional training than I've already received.
Okay. And just along a similar line, have you been out to visit or been toured any of the other operational retail facilities?
I have, both in Lowell, Patriot Care, and yours truly in Gardner Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Totally different experience, and I would strongly suggest, if you can.
Oh, speak to that. Educate us.
Because
it's first time for us too.
So when I mentioned no line queuing, that was something of Patriot Care in Lowell. That's down by the Lowe's in Lowell, Industrial Ave. Get off the off-ramp, you go left, it's right there on your left. There's a lot of line queuing, there's a lot of folks that are outside. Not the most attractive, as you can see here, this is a very attractive destination type location that, just as a developer, I take pride, in the way that we're gonna fit this out, and this is gonna be a high-class operation. Gardner is a totally different experience. They have a lot of parking there. You're not going to find people outside. Very educational staff, or educated staff.
You're not gonna find them outside because of expanded floor space inside, is that primarily?
No line queuing?
Yeah. line
Yeah,
queuing,
absolutely. Absolutely, and that's what was, most important about our location, as you've seen the floor plan, and you saw the walkthrough. When you enter that vestibule, it's 750 square feet. That's a lot of space with no walls. And so it allows us to not only park our customers, but then move them inside and allow them to flow gradually through the space without having to come outside. And even though we're set pretty far back, there won't be any view of anyone in line waiting, as you would see in Lowell at any day of the week. You drive down there, you'll see it.
Okay, great. I don't have any other questions at this point. May come up with some later, but thank you very much for a
Thank
great
you.
presentation.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, agreed. Just like with the previous presentation, very well prepared. Appreciate the interaction with the working group. Anytime we came back to you with anything, you were right there with an answer for us.
Thanks.
To echo what both Joe and Paul had said about local candidates, more vested. There's a reason that CCC give us some guidance in that direction, and that's very much appreciated. The fact that you've reached out to the chief of police, as have the Littleton Apothecary. It's appreciated. The on-site, having Chief Michael Allen, associated with your organization, we put a lot of credence in his credentials when Sanctuary came before us. He's knowledgeable in this space, well respected in this space, and from conversations with Chief Pennard and having dealt with Sanctuary here as the appointing authority. I guess just if you could tell us a little bit about the incubator program. It kind of intrigues me that you've engaged with your wholesaler, and your wholesaler is kind of rolling you into an incubator program. Can you give us just a little?
Can I touch on that?
Mr. Chad.
Well, I'm Jason Sidman from Sanctuary, Taylor Street, Littleton. Is it okay, Chair?
Yes.
So basically, we've been approached by many, many operators in the state to wholesale product from us. We do make some unique products that are not in the market today. That being said, we're very selective with who we work with because, we're creating a brand here. We're a multi-state operator. We operate in New Hampshire for over 4 years, and we're doing a very big 35 dispensary program right now in Florida. So our brand and the integrity of our brand and the education to the consumer of our brands and products is extremely important to us. So what we found in studying this over the years in other markets who have gone before us is that you want to follow through on your products and make sure that wherever they're going, the people who are selling that product are equally as educated. And we also recognize that, because Massachusetts separated out the vertical system when it came to adult use, that there were going to be a lot of operators new to the space that are dispensaries only. So they don't have the benefit of having gone through the whole cultivation, processing, formulation aspect, which is really important and something that we take great pride in. So that being said, we have and are working with actually the only equity empowerment group right now in the state, Caroline's Dispensary. You may have heard that before. Excellent people. We do quite a bit of wholesaling with them, And he came to me earlier, David did, and we were talking months ago about his plans for Littleton. And I'm actually here to, I just want to put on the record, I'm here to endorse both groups, because I 100% think that, number one, you're getting local people that are going to be representing the town of Littleton. They have a history here, and we, for the record, as you know, we were looking to locate a dispensary here a year ago. Unfortunately, I'm not here before you today because we're maxed out on our license count. We would have loved to put a dispensary in Littleton, as you know. So that being said, the next best option for us is to work cooperatively with people who really take great pride in ownership in Littleton itself. And you know, we've been an excellent community member, and I'd love nothing more than to work with both groups and seeing to it that they both succeed. Because there are challenges in the space. The rules change almost every single day, and I think that we can add a lot of benefit to both operations.
Thank you.
It's a very healthy attitude. I appreciate that.
Dave, if I may, you had that nice presentation where you showed people go in the left, right-hand side and go
Yes.
through. Just so and it's in our documents, so I know how it works, but for the public, somebody walks in that first room, what's that first room for, and where do they go after that?
Yeah, so well, actually, if that's okay, I'd like the chief of security to talk specific to the security piece of that, if that's okay.
Okay. Chief?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to speak before you. In terms of the entry vestibule, that's what you first enter when you go in the entrance door. That's a secure vestibule, meaning there's an access control door that separates that vestibule from the rest of the facility. So once you're in that vestibule, you get checked your identification physically by the receptionist and security agent in that reception desk. Once that's done, then your ID is verified through an electronic ID verification scanner, which verifies that you are in fact the person that is showing that identification, and in fact it hasn't been altered in any way. It has a scanning feature in it. There's a number of different features associated with that system as well, in terms of banned customer lists. It allows networking into other facilities that might have the same type of system. It's really a robust, state-of-the-art system. But once that's checked and you're verified, then you're allowed into the dispensary floor. You're greeted by a dispensary agent who will greet you at that entrance door, and then for those customers that need education on what type of product they want to buy, that may occur. Repeat customers may get expedited to a faster service line because they already know what they want once they make their purchase, and then they go to the opposite side of the facility and they exit out the front door as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just wanted the public to know, you went in here, then you, as you move through, and you pick up the product at the very end.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't have any other questions right now.
Could I just make one last note about the entry vestibule? This is just a design thing, and you might appreciate it. I had a vision of creating like a Littleton memorabilia type of entryway. You know, there's a lot of pride here. And so while folks are waiting, they're looking around, because they may not be from Littleton, but just sharing the community feel, you know, of our town with Littleton. My wife Stacy does something called Subway Art. She runs her own small business as well. Joe, you've probably seen some of her work.
I bought some of her work.
And Stacy and I have talked about an oversized, something really cool, and trying to get some community thoughts from community members and putting them on that Subway Art, which is just almost like a puzzle piece of words that mean something. So that was important to me too, to have this opportunity to take everything I've learned over the last 20 years in running my own business and being a little more creative with it, as you can see with this approach, you know. And I'll give first credit to my wife, Stacy. She helped me with this approach because, you know, we are creative thinkers and business owners, and this is just something we enjoy and love. I'm really excited to take it to the next level and do something a little different and really put 100% focus into it, so.
Any questions from the public?
So, Dave McManus, 3 Harvest Lane.
Thanks, Dave.
Dave, you talked at the beginning of the presentation about, and through the chair, sorry, about the appointment-only model and being open to that, I guess is how you phrased it. Can you just talk a little bit about what would be the drivers, like what would make you go that route versus just open hours?
Direct this to the board. So the thought process there is if there is that much of a concern from the town of Littleton and the Littleton Police Department, we are willing to work with the town in an appointment-only process. Actually, Jason Sidman in Gardner, he actually followed the same process for the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we had an appointment-only system for the first 2 weeks. Everything went extremely smoothly, 0 issues, 0 traffic concerns whatsoever. The mayor actually did a nice write-up in the news, how great everything went. And the appointment system went away, and everything was mitigated and handled appropriately. Some of the measures that you can take on top of that is have an online ordering system, which helped expedite the process for people. And in Brookline, what we've done is a third approach is, because that's a much busier area down there, obviously in Boston, but you can take, if you're getting to an overflow situation, then you can act, there's plenty of parking on the site, but if you get into an overflow situation, then clearly we have implemented a system much like a restaurant where we take the person's phone number and then they get texted when availability opens, so we don't want any loitering, people on site, and that's another measure. But certainly for both groups, I would suggest, depending on how many are open and when they're going to open, I would suggest maybe an appointment-only system for the first week or 2 in coordination with the police department, and let the police department make the decision just like they did in Gardner, and everything went perfect.
I forgot the workforce question.
No, just a comment through the chair again. Good application, great presentation on the questions that we followed up with you. Great responses,
Thank you.
timely responses, so.
Thank you.
Just want to thank you. And
Appreciate it.
your effort.
Yeah.
Hi, Anna Houston, Planning Board and Working Group. So, like our chair, Mr. Knox, I live at 20 Meeting House Road, so I get to go through that lovely traffic every day trying to get out, turning left. I would really request that the board consider having a traffic study in advance of an HCA, simply because there is so much traffic that files in that area of town at rush hour, as was pointed out. And the fact that it's only a couple of 100 yards away from the crossroads that is the most busiest in town, I think it's really important that we have a firm grasp of the data as to how many cars go through there, what are the actual times, and then how best to manage that. A police officer is a great idea, and being able to really understand that information first and foremost, and taking your expected customer count into consideration, I think will be really vital information for the town to know, so that we can handle this appropriately and hopefully mitigate any concerns about traffic congestion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just add to that real quick, every municipality that I work in now, they all require a traffic study, period. There's no exception. I haven't seen one that is not requiring it now. Just thought I'd mention that.
Any other questions? Either one, who wants to go?
I'm Katie Caruth, Wilson Street. I just want to echo what Anna said. I pull out, I live right up from the Common, and I pull out on King Street many times a day, and it's already really dangerous, extremely dangerous. So I'm really concerned about the increased traffic coming through the Common.
Thank you.
Cammy Bean, Oak Road. My question is not about traffic. It's actually more interested in the sanctuary angle. What percentage of your stock will be from sanctuary? Are you doing 100% of your product will be from sanctuary?
100%.
So it just, I don't know, it just seems like if you have a 3-store limit, and I'm all for local, and I think it's great. I'm just concerned about the vertical integration that's happening. I had the opportunity to talk to a company that's California, New York based recently who's buying everybody, and they're like, they're gonna be the Philip Morris of cannabis, right? Like buy stock in them right now. But is that what sanctuary is becoming, and is that what we're bringing into the, you know?
No,
It's an honest question.
Jason?
That's a very, very different model than what you're seeing in the Boston Globe Spotlight articles. So you're permitted to have unlimited wholesale contracts with as many people as you want. The only interest that Sanctuary has is in selling the product and obviously educating that person to proliferate our brand. But that being said, Sanctuary has no equity and no other incentives whatsoever, and we do have many other wholesale contracts. So there's zero problem with that whatsoever.
Any others? Mr. Houston?
Rob Houston, 20 Meeting House Road. Traffic's already been addressed separately. I actually just have a question. Based on the revenue that you're calculating, and then the revenue to the town, what was, I couldn't see it. What is the estimated revenue in year 1, 2, and 3? Just
On a gross level?
Yeah.
Year one.
Through the chair, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Through the chair. Let me just bring it back to that
I
slide.
just couldn't read it.
Yep, that's okay.
My vision's bad.
No problem. So as I can actually I can explain this growth plan a little further. So you'll notice that our serviceable market, although the population will likely increase, we are still keeping that the same. However, based on a great experience, we are anticipating our consumer population will actually increase annually. So we're projecting, as you can see, from year 1 to year 5, 7.5% of that serviceable market to reach 9.5%. So as you can see, almost halfway down, you'll see annual cannabis sales beginning with a gross amount of 17 million and then moving up to almost 22 million based on our projections.
So my question, I was trying to derive my question, which is actually the number of people, right? So it's
Yep.
the total consumers per month is, what is that, 12,000?
Let's see here. We have total.
12,560.
I'm sorry.
12,560.
Yes, sorry.
So
Thank you.
that was the number I was actually trying to get.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, total customers per month, based on our hours of operation, we're looking at 32 a day. I'm sorry, 32 an hour. And we have 82 parking spaces.
Yeah, no, parking's a completely different issue, right?
Mhm.
I'm extrapolating the question of 32 an hour on average, but the bulk of it is gonna be coming to and from work. I mean, we just heard that from the other applicant. So the bulk of those 32 per hour are gonna arrive during this 5 to 7 window, I guess is really, I'm just giving more food for thought to the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board as they're contemplating traffic at this location in the heavy hitter hours, for lack of a better word. That's a lot of customers. That's really what I was trying to get at. It's only a comment more than a question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders?
Mr. Chairman, George Sanders, 672 Great Road. How many applications did the town receive, and what was the deadline for submission?
So far, we have 3 applications.
And there is no dead.
It's a rolling
Yeah.
rolling application process.
Thank you.
Any others? If not, thank you very much, David.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
We let Cindy know to come back in? We'll let Cindy know it's.
No, let's leave her out there. She's not waiting there?
She was upstairs, thank you. I just texted her.
Did it? All right, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I have to go to the bathroom. I'll leave you guys when the two of you here.
I'll make a quick suggestion that since we have a third applicant, before we discuss any, we just wait and do the third.
Keeps chasing us. Keeps chasing us. It's gonna be with them as well.
That's true, yeah, so there's two good reasons.
Can you bring that up when?
Yep, so, yeah, but let's just, without getting into the details of any of them, just hit those 2 points, yeah.
Did you text her?
Yeah, it's good.
I have a puppy dog, guys. Usually works.
Sure, do I have?
Sometimes they have to read tears.
Right now, we're in the process of waiting for Selectman Napoli to reappear.
She's coming.
I usually wait right till they do it.
Yeah, we've seen your ear. Hanging around the corner.
You have the timeout chair right back there?
Yeah, I had it for a long time back there. While we wait, well, obviously, we've had two good applicants.
You want me to sing a song or something?
Volunteer, go ahead.
You can stop.
Yeah?
No, keep going.
It's pretty good, right?
It was good.
Don't you laugh at me, Chief.
Is she in the building? Because if not, we can move on.
Yeah, she's in the building. She was
Cindy
upstairs in
come
my
back?
office. Here she comes. I left her with the trail mix.
With what?
She was with the trail mix.
Ladies and gentlemen, now entering the room.
You weren't at the pub, were you?
It typically takes
didn't
about
check in
7
on
minutes. Traffic light?
That call ahead works really well.
So we've had two of our applicants give great presentations. We have a third, which has me concerned that legally, if we weren't to hear them, and because their application is on file with the Selectman's office right now, so I would have a concern. Anyone else?
I'd just add that I think it's within our right to act on them, but since the other folks are coming in on the 10th of June, right, our next meeting, I think.
The third applicant's due to come in on the 10th.
They haven't been notified of
Oh,
that,
all
but
right.
we can
Well,
certainly schedule some
All right, I guess
time.
that was my anticipation, and I would think that maybe we want to hold off discussion of awarding any of the licenses until we heard from the three. The other thought being, of course, too, is that Chase wasn't able to join us tonight, but and Chuck, your thought that actually that he could give a chance to watch the videotape, so he could participate in this deliberation with the full board, and we'll just do it that way.
That was my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, to have Chase, give him the opportunity to watch the presentations. I think the working group was going to try to convene and look over the third proposal, just like we did with the first two, and just see if we had any follow-up questions or needed some additional information from them, just to follow the same process.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that I think that that's fine. I'm fine doing that, but I do think that we are within our right to, if we decide tonight that we absolutely should move forward and negotiate an HCA with each of these two applicants, with one of these two applicants, I think we're within our right to do that. because
Okay.
We didn't put a deadline and have a date certain that we would review by.
Right.
So if these were the first applicants that came before us, and we feel as though they knocked it out of the park and we should get moving, I think we can do that. But
Right.
I appreciate giving Chase an opportunity to watch these two presentations, and it gives us, an opportunity to look at the third applicant as well, and see.
I don't think we have any special obligation to that third applicant,
either.
but since there are only three and we haven't gone through them yet, why don't we just do that one more piece of the puzzle, vet them the same way, have the same interview opportunity, and I'd be prepared to act I assume at the next get-together.
Be okay with that.
Well, what I'd like to do is have the working group review that third application, convene in executive session like we did for the first two, if we have the same questions and concerns that would permit us to convene in an executive session, and then decide how to go from there. I don't necessarily know that we'll invite the third applicant back until we really meet and discuss,
Makes sense.
because that is an option. The way the RFP is written, it's not a given that you get invited to come back, so I think we just need to take the process as we go.
Step at a time.
Right.
Then I would suggest that, just what you said, have the working group get together, analyze it, report back to us in executive session.
Right. And then, right.
We can be prepared to act either way on the 10th, either give them an interview or not, and then
Act on the
vote.
10th.
Yeah.
Right.
Make a decision based upon the
Yep.
presentation we had tonight.
Right, and then in the interim, Chase gets to watch the proposals that came before us tonight, and, does that sound right?
I'm sure he's streaming it at work.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't surprise me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, good consensus.
Any questions from the applicants about how we plan to proceed? Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sure everybody wants it done yesterday,
I
but
can't- I'm
we're trying to check all the boxes.
We want to do our diligence. Exactly.
So that's what we'll do, we'll move on, and we'll wait till the 10th. All right, thank you.
Great, thanks.
The presentation is kind of light. Much more impressive presentation.
All right, what are we up to?
Yeah.
I feel like I have trail mix all over me.
Right.
Moving on, we're gonna talk about the finance director. Steve, you're there somewhere.
Yeah, it's funny.
Just to, we ready?
Okay.
Sorry, we're just having our little meeting. Subcommittee meeting.
The first thing is just to update the board. We had 7 total applicants for the finance director position. Ann forwarded the applications to Nina, myself, and Steve to rate the applications, and then what we'll do is we'll do that, wait and meet with, have some discussions with Nina, probably the week after next, somewhere around June, beginning of June, and then report back to the board on the 10th.
Okay. Two points. One is I think we made clear from the beginning, I think we were hoping that the board would have a representative in the process, interview process, or review process. And then other than that, I'd also like to see those resumes, just to see who's applying.
When do the interviews take place?
Oh, we're not even close to that.
Okay.
We're just, right now, just evaluating the 7.
They generally look good?
I had,
I'd say 4 of the 7.
Which ones?
My lips are sealed, Jim.
So, that's it for that report?
that's it, so we'll report back on the 10th, and,
Well, I'd like, my understanding as far as having a board member involved with the interviews, and I anticipate it would be the chair if you're available.
Yeah,
unless
it's
you're
fine, but
designated.
you just said it's not gonna take place until.
we're not, this is just to determine, I
Yeah,
think.
I just didn't
who-
want to be speaking for myself, I want to make sure that that was the board's thought on that, too.
It's fine.
Right.
Okay.
Just to determine who
If a member
would
of
be.
the board is going to take part, we'd want them to rate the applications along with
Right.
Benjamin's. If you let us know who that would be, send the documents.
That's the chair unless he says otherwise.
I will,
Okay. We'll get them to you tomorrow.
and I can probably drop into my,
Okay.
all right, that's it for that, so
That's it for that.
I just wanna wait for Chuck to get
Yeah.
back. on the-
Yeah.
Chuck, just so you know, we've had 7 applicants for that position, and I'm gonna be on the interview thing and go through the first, take a look at the first 7 so I can analyze it too.
Excellent.
So you know.
Thank you.
Which brings us to the next topic, which is space needs discussion, which was brought forth by, I think Cindy asked for this, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. So I wanted to talk about, with the board, about the space needs working group, where we're at. We've been going through this process, the space needs process, Chuck and myself. Chuck actually is the chairperson of that board. I'm the vice chair, that committee. But I just feel like it hasn't been as productive as it could have been. And we need to change that. We have the library project moving forward. We're at a stalemate right now with the space needs. We have an OPM. We haven't finalized anything with the architects yet. So I just wanted to talk to the board about changing the composition or how we're moving forward right now with that initiative. I just wanted to.
I'd like to offer something just from personal experience, although you may or may not view it as a successful model, but as far on the sewer project, Chase and I, we're the board's designees, and we convene working groups or, whatever on the fly with whoever's needed at a given point in time. So, Anthony's usually involved, Chris Stoddard is sometimes, like the water commissioners or water department, and the town's contracted engineers, Weston and Sampson, they come and go. But it makes it easy for us to operate in that we don't, it's not a formal committee which gets you into, a lot of requirements that can bog you down, frankly. I mean,
Right.
this is a formal committee, this is where deliberations that take place, and I just think anything that would allow you folks to do your job as with as much dispatch as possible. I mean, you
Right.
get some guidance from town meeting, a few weeks ago, so
Right.
you get clear projects to work on, and I'd suggest you consider that model, that the board consider it.
Chuck, what are your thoughts?
No, it's a good case in point. It's a good reference point for us. I do think we need to sit down with Vertex, give them the direction that the architect needs in order for us to make the next step. I mean, to Paul's point, there was some direction given by town meeting.
Right.
And I think that probably executing on both of the plans that they had given us proposals on is the right thing to do.
Right.
What kind of time frame do you think we're talking about?
For them to get back to us with.
No, we started talking about space 2 years ago, 2 and 3
Yeah.
years ago. And now it just continues.
Honestly, Joe, it's one of, we have the OPM in place, we have the architect firm in place, but we just need to move forward and get with the architects and come up with a plan moving forward. The composition of the committee was too big. A lot of times we didn't have a quorum, and it just went off the rails. And I think it's our job as the Board of Selectmen who formed that
We're the ones
committee.
that'll be held responsible, and we all
Right,
are, so, I
right.
mean, if you guys have been riding it, I'd say just go at it and take on board whoever you need at any given time and just
Right.
do it.
But as far as your point, Joe, I mean, I can't answer that as far as a deliverable project or,
I guess one of my concerns is the seniors. How is this, are we proposing to wait until this is completely done before we start utilizing the money that was set aside by town meeting for the, to look at a senior center? Or is that, or can it be done simultaneously? Can we be looking for a senior thing right now?
So, can I answer that question?
Sure.
So one of the directives that we gave to the architects was to give us a proposal on what it would cost to evaluate 255 Great Road, to determine whether or not that would be a good alternative for a town office, specifically a senior center, a town asset. So we can execute on that right now. We can tell Vertex, okay, have LLB.
yeah.
Have LLB prepare those drawings and give us, what your deliverable would be to make 255 Great Road with the exception of the leased space, a senior center? What would, and they can give us cost estimates and design, it would give us much more information specific to that property.
Location, right. Yep.
So, the other component was to look at this facility and to go the extra mile beyond what the LEAB report gave us and to truly help us to understand what we have here and whether or not it's worthwhile for us to continue to operate with this being a long-term solution. This building serving as many needs as it does serve the town.
Right.
And certainly, again, from the vote of town meeting a couple weeks ago, if in fact the library does continue to move forward, that plays a major role in what happens with this facility.
Right. I mean, the thought process behind the working group was to get everybody in the same room, come up with an inclusive approach to solve everybody's space needs, so we're not pitting projects against each other. Unfortunately, I don't think it's panning out that way based on town meeting and some of the discussions and comments that were made, which personally, and I think that many people will agree with me, I don't want to go back to Alumni Field and the tumultuous climate in town that arose from that project. And that was the whole point behind the Space Needs Working Group, was to avoid that. So at this juncture, just because the library is, you know, they have their funding for the design, they're moving forward, we need to step up on our end.
So this is kind of the funding for the design for the senior center, if the senior center would be located.
Exactly, and originally we had thought, and I thought the architects said they could deliver a look at Great Road for a senior center, as well as this building at the same time, just to let us know what we can do with this building.
You have two experts on board, and you have some money, right?
Right.
So, I mean.
Yeah.
It's funded, I mean, we can pull the trigger.
I'd just say, what combination of whatever you both just talked about sounds fine to me. Just go ahead and do it. You get the authority to do it, you know, to bring some ideas back. Do your internal studies. If you're lacking something.
Just bring in who we need, or
Yeah.
and the architects will give us
And
more input on that.
People
And
have a forum to come here every time it's on the agenda. They can do and will in the future be able to speak to any of it. So if any of that's bogging you down, do the work and, you know, bring your product back to you. That's my suggestion.
Thoughts?
That sounds good to me. Mr. Mullin?
As a member of the PNBC, we had a short discussion about space needs and what you guys were going through. And in the conversation, I don't remember who might have brought it up, but sometimes in this town, I think it's a good fault that we might have, and especially the select board, is over collaboration. And I think the over collaboration sometimes does bog down the work you guys are trying to do. And I like Paul's suggestion in maybe moving forward, streamlining the people you're speaking to, I think. My 2 cents.
Okay.
Mr. Sanders?
Mr. Chairman, as a member on the Space Need Committee there, I have to tell you very candidly that I don't think that the volunteers that was on that committee is at fault for why we didn't have meetings. I think that the leadership didn't have the meetings when we scheduled them to have them, and that we didn't get the opportunity to talk to the OPM. And that was supposed to be a time he was going to brief us on that. He was going to tell, as he said earlier, about 255 Great Road. My question is this here, is that I think the availability of the people, and I don't think it's the number of people that was on the committee, I think the availability of people that was leading the committee was not there. I'm being very candid with you.
I appreciate you.
I call a spade because I've always been available, and we've communicated by using emails to tell people that. And when we did have a meeting and when we set it up, nothing went through on it for whatever reason, whether your job taking you away or whatever the case is. But I can tell you, I'm going to stand here and tell you that I do not believe that the citizen that was on that committee is at fault in any fashion or form as to why we didn't get something
No
done.
one said that. I don't think we put any blame at anybody, to be honest.
No, I think there's some merit to what Mr. Sanders said. There were a number of times where we weren't able to get a quorum, and
Right.
I'll certainly take my share of the blame for some meetings that I was unable to attend, or we weren't able to be productive during the meetings.
Right.
That comes back to
But I don't
my-
think it comes down to any one group
That's,
of people. It was just,
Let's just move forward
yeah.
then.
Yeah, I mean, the object here is to bring back a good proposal as soon as possible.
Right.
And whatever model makes that work best, try it.
Okay.
I mean, the commitment's there, George, you know, about getting the job done. Alan, too, anybody who's a vested interest there. I think the frustration has been, you know, as expressed by the committee members, is all the pieces are there. You gotta put it all together and, you know, come back with
Right.
some proposals.
Right, well, I think Mr. Mullin said it best, you know, sometimes we want to collaborate, but over collaboration sometimes can be counterproductive, so. Okay.
All right, moving on then.
Unless there was anybody else, I didn't know to.
Anyone else? Okay, minutes.
Clerk's not here. I'll move the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the meeting minutes of May 13th, 2019. Boy, we're all caught up, huh?
second.
Motion was made by Selectman Glavy, seconded by Selectman DeCoste, to approve the minutes from May 13th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, that takes care of that. Which leads us to executive section, which we'll enter. We're doing it for litigation strategy, and we will not convene an open session afterwards.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, then I will move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Subsection A, Clause 3, to convene an executive session for litigation strategy and not reconvene an open session thereafter.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Glavy?
Aye.
Mrs. DeCoste?
I'm in favor of executive session.
That would be an aye.
Aye.
Once in a while, I'm not home doing laundry, sitting in here.
Selectman Napoli?
Aye.
Selectman Knox? Aye. Thank you all for watching tonight. And
That's right.